There's like a whole series on social media about women logic. And from the outside looking in, you sort of understand it on TikTok, on Instagram, but when you're living it and it plays out in front of you, it's got a totally different meaning.
I think I have a perfect example of how this made all the sense in the world to all of the women at this table that I was sitting at, but all of the men were so thoroughly confused. And it all starts because I know in relationships, I often hear women say that they ask their significant others to do things, and sometimes the man forgets, and that can be somewhat of an issue in the relationship. And, well, I thought in my relationship that I was pretty good at that. Turns out I'm not as good as I believe I am. And this all started around, so sometime when my lady comes into town, there are about 3 or 4 doors that you have to go to in order to get to my place. Mm-hmm. And sometime the way that her flights are set up, she'll have to get here at a time when I'm not there. Now, most of the doors I can buzz her in for wherever I am. But there's one particular door that I can't. You have to have the actual scan key. And she lost her scan key. Of course. And then I was supposed to go get a new one, but I forgot. And so
also, they're kind of expensive.
They are. They're not cheap.
If I needed to replace mine, it'd be $500.
What?
Whoa, mine's not that much.
Oh, yeah. They charge you for literally everything.
See, they know, man. They just know you're going to lose that thing. It's an easy way to make $500.
Which, in my mind, I think I didn't really forget. I just didn't want to pay the $100. Now, $500 told her you just not get another one.
Well, wait a second. Why do you have to pay the $100 if she was the one that lost it?
Well, that's how I feel about a lot of things. I think that's a valid question.
I think so too.
Right? So this particular time, she ends up coming, and I hadn't got the scan key yet. So she needed to ask me or remind me to leave that door cracked as I'm leaving because she was going to be following in shortly after. So that particular morning, which this part of it is completely on me, right? This part I accept. I was telling myself, leave the door cracked, leave the door cracked, leave the door cracked. And it's such a habit that you just go through the door every morning and make sure that it's closed behind you, for security purposes, that I just naturally did it and completely forgot. And as soon as I got to work, I realized it. I was like, oh, I forgot. So now we're going to have to try to figure out a way to get her in, or we're going to have to wait until the people get to my apartment so that they could let her in. Either way, she was probably going to be out there waiting for an hour. So I felt horrible. Mm-hmm. So later that weekend, we all go out. We're at a dinner. It's some couples. We're all hanging out. And she brings this up. Somebody forgot to get the scan card, and we're having this whole conversation. Now, at some point in the conversation, I said to her, now, while I completely did forget, and I should have reminded myself, why didn't you remind me? Like, you always send a text to say, don't forget, before you go to work, leave the door cracked. And she didn't this time for whatever reason. And she said, well, I didn't remind you because if I reminded you and then you forgot, I would be pissed that you forgot. So it just made sense to not remind you. And I said, what?
Okay, I was not expecting to go this route.
So she remembered, but strategically didn't send the text.
Right.
It feels like a setup.
Right, but it was so naturally it was just funny to me how all of the men were like, what? Like, that doesn't make any sense at all. But the women were like, that makes perfect sense. Like, because if I have constantly reminded you to do something and you don't do it, then I already know you're not going to do it. And you not doing it is going to piss me off. And it's going to put me in a bad mood. So it's just the safe route to go is to not remind you at all.
I'm dizzy.
So the two routes I'm going, one, women often get accused of being nags. So that's why they're like, I'm not going to sit here and harp on you about doing something. I asked you to do it once. That should be enough. And if I harp on you to do it, then I'm going to get labeled a nag. So there's that aspect of it. And then there's the other aspect of it where if she reminds you of this, then it could become a pattern of her having to remind you for everything. And then now it's like the weaponized incompetence or whatever. And it's like, oh, so now I've established that I have to remind you for everything. And now you're relying on those reminders. And I've enabled the bad behavior of you forgetting. Yep. So now I'm just going to have to it was a lesson. It was a lesson in remembering on your own. And I kind of get the So women's logic is logic-y.
It's logic-y.
I feel like we're being trained like puppies all the time.
I feel the same.
Abby, where are you at?
I kind of feel the same way. Whereas if I feel like I'm already micromanaging you, and then if I anticipate the follow through not happening, I would feel bad on so many levels. A, because I'm like, here I am being the classic woman micromanaging you. And then here you go again, not following the instructions. And I think it's just going to add to that level of frustration. So I kind of get it, where if she knows it's going to happen no matter what, you might as well just take out one of the negative emotions and just stick with the fact that I know I'm going to be frustrated waiting outside your apartment.
See, it's the anticipation for me, right? Because I get it wrong sometimes, but I get it right a lot of the time too. And if you don't put me in the game, you can't be mad I didn't score.
Okay.
you got to give me a chance.
I'm with you, man. So when you were at the table and it starts to be a house divided, what are the guys' arguments on that side? Because if I'm at that table, I totally got your back.
The guys are saying what I just said pretty much. Like, okay, I do get that there are times when I may have forgot, but there are also times when I remembered, and that simple reminder might have been exactly what I needed in order to get it right. And you can't be mad at me for you assuming I wasn't going to do something when I didn't actually not do it. That's how the guys felt.
Now, if the roles were reversed, would you have sent that text to her?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Right. I would have expected her to just know to do it.
That's very hard to defend at that point. Very hard. Here is Deshaun. Deshaun, thank you for calling the Bert Show. What do you got?
I just think it's interesting how we're all talking about Mo and how women don't want to remind men, but this whole situation would have never happened if she would have never lost the card.
Uh-oh.
Did you ever?
You said it. I did.
Okay.
The Bert Show.